Hello friends, welcome back. Let's implement the same component using React hooks and functional component. So let's create a new file inside fetching folder. So I'll create a new file and I'll name it users hook.js. And as this is a functional component, so I will write RAFCE and press tab. Now we need to import use state from React. So here I need to write use state. Let's call use state. So here we need to write use state and we need to pass an initial value. So we will pass initial value as null, and this use state will return an array with two elements. So the first one is the state variable, so we can name it as users, and the second variable is the setter function, so we can name as set users. And then we need to assign it to a variable keyword, so we will assign it to const. Let's save this file, and we need to implement the same functionality as it is here. So here we can say if user does not exist, then return a div with no users. And if the user state variable exists, then we need to return a ul, an unordered list, and inside this we will map the users. So we will take a map method to add the to show the users. So users dot map, and inside we need to take an arrow function, and here we need to take the argument which is u, and to print the name of the users u dot name, and here we need to pass the key, so key which will be u dot id. Let's save this file. Now we need to import this component to app.js. So let's go to app.js, and here we need to write import users hooked from component slash fetching slash users hook, and here we need to render it out. So users hook. Let's save this file. Let's save this file and let's check it in the browser. Right now you will not see anything because we have not added the data fetching functionality. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code, and we need to go to usershook.js, and now let's implement the data fetching functionality. So for that we need to import use effect. So here we need to write use effect. Let's create our first effect. So here we need to write use effect, and inside we need an arrow function, and let's go to users class.js, and the functionality is same, so we just need to copy this code and we need to paste it here, and instead of this dot set state we need to write set users, and here we need to write users. Let's save this file, and here we need to pass the dependency as an empty array in the second argument, so it will be like component did mount. Now this use effect will run only once on the first render. Now if I save this file and if I go to the browser, you can see our list has been printed. So this is how we implement the same functionality as we did in our class component. Now let's move further and let's add error handling as well. So let's go to Visual Studio Code and let's create another state variable, and we are going to call this as error, and the setter function will be set error, which is equal to use state, and the initial value will be null. So if there is an error, it goes to catch block, and here inside we need to pass an arrow function. So when the promise reject, then we can set the error and pass the error object. Now let's save this file. So we need to remove this and let's save this. And if I go to the browser, you will not see anything. But what if I do a typo error in the URL? So let's remove this dot. So basically if the error object is populated, then we can say that if error exists, then simply return a div with error. Let's save this, and now let's go to the browser and check. So as you can see, this error message has been printed. Now let's say we also wanted to show the users when the fetching is still in progress when the component is loading. So let's create another state variable. So here we need to write const. So the variable name will be is loading and the setter function will be set is loading, which is equal to use state, and the initial value will be false. Initially, we will not load anything. So when do we want to set this loading to be true? When we start our fetching, basically before that. So before this fetching, we will write set is loading to be true. Let's save this. So when we receive a response here, we can basically say set is loading false to be false. And here we need to close the curly braces. Let's save this file because we have not finished downloading our data. That's why we need to put it as false. And when there is an error, we also want to call set is loading to be false. So set is loading, we need to set it to false. And here we need to close the curly braces. Let's save this. We have set it to false because we are not downloading any data. So now if there is no user, then basically we can check is loading state variable value, and if this is true, then we can return a div saying loading. Otherwise, we just return no user. And let's add a dot here because we have removed it to show the error, but now we need to add this dot. Let's save this and let's go back to the browser. Here you can see the data because it loaded very fast. So how we can check we have very slow connection. So uh, let's inspect this, and let's go to network tab, and here we need to select slow 3G, and then we need to refresh the page. So once I refresh the page, now you will able to see that this data has been loading. Okay, and now all the data is here. So we can go back, and now we can make the connection as it is. So this is how you can check the loading. So now we have seen an example how to execute API calls in a functional component with React hooks. And we also added some additional state. So this is it for this video. And in the next video, we are going to create a very first React hook. So I'll see you in the next video.